Tonight on The Big Story.
I am on cross, Your Honor, please.
Counsels.
Never mind if you're on cross. There are limits to cross-examination. Misleading questions are not allowed.
They
on
are
cross.
allowed.
Counsels,
I don't think I need to lecture
please,
you that.
counsels, let's not allow the generational or seeming generational divide increase the tension in the courtroom. Let's keep it a notch lower.
Tensions flare on day 15 of the Duterte impeachment trial as the defense and prosecution teams clash over questionable confidential funds and proper conduct in court. President Marcos believes Metro Manila's garbage problem is critical, but it can't be considered a crisis, at least not yet. He also makes a push for a waste-to-energy campaign and basic disposal discipline.
A country like Japan, they just don't throw their basura anywhere. They keep it in their pockets and throw it at home because there's a very good system for bringing the garbage out.
Former Public Works Secretary Manny Bonoan tagged some senators in so-called leadership funds from infrastructure projects. He was quick to clarify, though, there's nothing wrong with such appropriations. And look who just partnered up. Vice Ganda and MediaQuest Holdings Incorporated are set to embark on entertainment projects expected to be unkabogable.
Good evening, I'm Ces Oreña-Drilon. We begin with day 15 of the Duterte impeachment trial, seeing heightened courtroom banter. That's as the defense cross-examined the prosecution's witness. Tension was so thick, even the presiding officer had to intervene. This is the big story from mobile journalist Merimon Reyes.
The defense panel's cross-examination of prosecution witness Sailin del Campo saw heated exchanges between lawyers defending and prosecuting Vice President Sara Duterte. It started when defense counsel Christine Ferrer asked witness Sailin del Campo on the Commission on Audit's basis for issuing a notice of disallowance on the OVP's confidential funds. It may be recalled that COA ordered the return of the confidential funds used by Duterte's office in 2023, allegedly because the agency failed to provide proof that use of the secret budget led to successful intelligence gathering. Ferrer asked, was an actual arrest of a person necessary before an informant could be given a reward? Or is it enough that because of the OVP's intelligence gathering, Duterte remained safe? At this point, Private Prosecutor Lorna Capunan had to object.
Your Honor, please, can the witness be directed? You just answer with yes or no. The counsel has her time to ask clarificatory questions later
Your Honor,
during
not all
redirect, Your
questions.
Honor.
Not all questions can be answered by yes
I am
or
on
no.
cross, Your Honor, please.
Counsels.
Never mind if you're on cross. There are limits to cross-examination.
Counsels.
Misleading questions are not allowed.
They
on
are
cross.
allowed.
Counsels,
I don't think I need to lecture
please,
you that.
counsels, let's not allow the generational or seeming generational divide increase the tension in the courtroom. Let's keep it a notch lower.
The exchange between the two sides, however, did not end there. Attorney Capunan took another swipe at Attorney Ferrer.
I am preventing myself from giving her a spanking, Your Honor. That is what I would
Your
have
Honor,
done
please.
Again,
in the
counsels.
generational divide, Your Honor.
Again,
Your Honor,
counsels, you are all members of the bar and
Yes,
you're
Your Honor.
all counsels
I submit,
for the parties.
I submit.
And we will be treating and looking at each one equally. At Miss
I will-
Eileen.
Yes, Your
it's
Honor.
also-
I promise to henceforth behave.
Your
Thank
Honor,
you.
can I please respond quickly lang, no? I have high respect for Attorney Capunan. In fact, she's one of
You
my
can end there,
idols.
counsel.
Let's end here.
You can end there.
This
with
might
the
sound like
respect.
it might sound like a eulogy, Your Honor. I'm still very much alive.
Your Honor, kahapon niya, hindi ko nga siya kinukulit, di ba? Kahit may mga questions na doon na leading, hindi naman allowed yun sa direct examination eh. I respected her.
You can end there, counsel, if
yeah,
you respect her. Thank you.
Despite the objections, Ferrer continued with her cross-examination. She repeatedly asked Del Campo about how intelligence gathering success is measured.
Nakalagay ba sa Joint Memorandum Circular 2015-01 na kailangan may mahuli para maging successful ang isang pagbigay ng reward or information?
Wala pong nakalagay. Ang nakalagay lang po, proof of success of information gathering and or surveillance
So,
activities.
interpretasyon niyo po yun na dapat may mahuli para maging successful?
Ay based po yon sa aking professional judgment and based on the evaluation po ng documents na ito is based po sa joint circular.
Pero hindi po yun nakalagay sa joint circular na maliwanag.
Hindi po. Nakalagay lang po proof of
Interpretasyon
success.
nyo na po yan.
Doon po sa pag-evaluate ko yun po.
But Del Campo maintained that the OVP's documentation was still insufficient to prove the confidential funds were used for successful intelligence gathering. Ferrer then presented a certification submitted to COA from the head of the Vice President's security group, Dante La Chica. Dated September 2023, La Chica said that the confidential activities, surveillance, and information gathering were conducted to ensure Duterte's safety.
Deployment of intel operatives and informants along routes, primary and alternate, from the landing zone to the venue. Is that an OVP admin work or intelligence-related ho yan?
Kasama po yan sa intelligence-related activity.
Okay.
The witness remained adamant. Such is not enough to prove that there was an intelligence activity. When the trial resumed after the lunch break,
I would like to ask this court to not allow side comments like, I was about to spank her, yung mga, I was about to lecture her, kasi yung mga ganun ho, Your Honor. Wala ho yung lugar dito sa courtroom. Because we are all lawyers here, we are all professionals. Igalang naman ho natin yung kapwa natin na lawyer. Kung halimbawa, at kagaya nito, mas matanda ho sa akin si Attorney Kapunan, maybe she has more years of experience. She has 48 years, I have 15. We should learn to respect each other and refrain from making side comments, Your Honor. And that was captured by the media po. So, that is our request, Your Honor, to just remind the counsel not to make those kinds of remarks. Thank you.
Attorney Kapunan already, although you are correct, it was already heard since we're on TV, Attorney Kapunan withdrew that statement earlier, if I remember correctly.
Yes, Your Honor. And in fact, I hope it was also part of the records that I promised to behave.
Thank you po.
Kapatid Mobile journalist Mary Monreyes, we are One News.
And joining us again tonight to discuss Day 15 of the impeachment trial is former Integrated Bar of the Philippines President, Attorney Igon Cayosa. Good evening, Attorney. Welcome to the Big Story once again.
Good evening, Ces. Magandang gabi sa ating mga kababayan.
Attorney, the lawyers stole the thunder from the witness and from the proceedings with their arguments and also the manifestation of the defense at the close of the trial. How would you assess the back and forth, the behavior of the lawyers?
Well, we hope that the Senate Impeachment Court will take better control of the proceedings, Ces. At yung sentimiento ng Defense Counsel, the lead counsel this afternoon, I hope it will really trigger a ruling or at least some admonition, very firm and concrete admonition from the presiding officer and from the impeachment court as a whole. And while, of course, we cannot disagree with the statements of the lead counsel, respect, good manners, and courtesy, that's expected of every lawyer. Okay? Whether or not the particular instance that she cited would be violative of Rule 18, yung subjudice rule of the Senate Impeachment Court, remains to be seen. But nevertheless, this is an observation that we've been repeating right from the very start, that it is equally important, if not more important, for the Senate Impeachment Court to maintain order and credibility and integrity. Because it is important that whatever the outcome of this impeachment case would be, that it is respected and accepted by the public.
Okay.
And while the Senate Impeachment Court and the presiding officer is at the matter, perhaps they could also call the attention of the parties because they've been equally guilty, if not more guilty, than the lawyers in making comments outside of the court, not only about the merits of the case, but even impugning the integrity and competence of the impeachment court.
You mean the senator judges?
Yes, no, not yet. Of course, that admonition should also be
Yeah.
directed to the senator judges because they're even worse. You know, they don't only openly side with the parties. They ask irrelevant questions, unintelligent questions, and more. Some of them even try to testify and put into the records things that are uncalled for a neutral judge. So, but ito may sinumpa ang oath of office mga ito, yung neutrality, impartiality. The presiding officer and the Senate as a whole should really remind each other that as they ask the lawyers to behave, they should also ask their fellow judges to behave, including, of course, yung nasasakdal. Because lately, she has been telling terrible things directly impugning the integrity and questioning the integrity of the impeachment court in public. This should not be allowed. I think yung rule of law and any semblance of credibility and integrity would be shattered kung payagan nila ang mga partido, mga hukom at mga councils to utterly disregard the minimum decorum expected and required of them.
All right, but I don't know if you expect the presiding officer to castigate his fellow senator judges.
Well, perhaps not castigate the SES, but to remind them. And he has to do that also publicly. He doesn't have to name names. I think the senators know themselves, no? The lawyers know themselves, the parties know themselves. It is very important that the public would hear that because ang napapansin natin, parang masyadong free-wheeling na lang eh. Kung ano lang ang pinapasok nila kahit wala nang katuturan, parang maging ano lang ito, sarswela eh. And definitely, I don't think the senators would waste time doing this.
All right. Now let's go to the matter that triggered the ire of the defense. Is it correct that during cross-examination, misleading or leading questions are not allowed, both in a regular court of law as well as in the impeachment court? Which was the subject of the social media post of Attorney Ligutan.
Well, the rule is very clear. During cross-examination, you may ask leading questions, but you cannot ask misleading questions. So malinaw yan, says. So even when I was listening, nabigla ako dun sa sinabi na pwede daw. But now, upon manifestation by the lead counsel, mukhang inexplain niya yon na hindi daw yun ang ibig sabihin niya. But of course, for us, without that explanation, na after the fact, nung narinig namin, para bang pinilit niya na pwede daw. So there's a misunderstanding here. So it triggered that reaction perhaps from Attorney Ligutan. I don't know in what context he put that post in social media. Anyway, he'll be heard before the ruling is made by the presiding officer.
Right. But I looked at the portion again, and because the explanation of Attorney Season was the retort of Attorney Ferrer was not pertaining to the misleading question, but to another. Yes. Pero it seemed to be, she agreed. She said it's allowed.
Yes, that's how I heard it also.
Yes.
So, without the explanation, yun ang dinig nating lahat. So now they come up with an explanation. I cannot disagree with the lead defense counsel that we have to respect each other. We have to observe propriety as lawyers. And I'd be the first one to request and remind them that as lawyers, we need to behave much better than that. But whether or not that post by Attorney Ligutan refers to that particular thing, yung kanyang interpretation is another thing. But of course, if you insist that that is a violation of the sub-judice rule, no? Yung Rule 18, medyo malabo because it doesn't really speak of the merits of the case. Yun bawal kasi sa Rule 18 to discuss outside the court the merits of the case.
Pero parang siguro patong-patong na ang feeling ng defense na masyado nang nabubuli si Attorney Ferrer ni Attorney Kapunan.
Yes, that's I see that also. But you know, in fairness to her also, she's very feisty. Hindi naman siya basta-bastang nabubuli. So I don't also and she was very quick. She couldn't be restrained also, di ba? Talagang yung kaya naman niya makipagtapatan kahit mas senior na abogado. And that's, you know, we have to appreciate that among lawyers. But whether or not the intention of yung manifestation was to cite the fact that nabubuli siya o kaya a bit of a drama, we don't know. But the fact is, and we all agree, the Senate Impeachment Court must take better control of the proceedings.
All right. Now let's go to her main task. The main task of Attorney Ferrer was to cross-examine the witness and demolish her testimony. Did she succeed?
Well, she succeeded in getting additional facts admitted by the witness, so which was not taken up during the direct examination, di ba? So the fact, for example, that merong mga liquidations na disallow and eventually na restore, na credit. The fact that meron ng desisyon ang yung unit in investigating this or auditing, and then meron ng desisyon ang commission and bank, but there is an MR. That's also something that positive for their side, at least insofar as the public is concerned. But legally, medyo malabo pa rin for those who understand the law, di ba? So marami naman siyang mga naipasok na bagong mga bagay-bagay, and we appreciate that because we need to know all the details. But if you say na completely demolish, I cannot agree with that because very consistent naman yung testimony nung mga witness at kahit nga barabarahin siya ng some senator judges, hindi rin siya natitinag. And as a matter of fact, very straightforward yung kanyang mga sagot. Nakita natin na hindi niya dinadagdagan, and she's humble enough to say kung hindi niya alam. But he was also smart enough to answer back kung pinipilit siya dun sa gustong marinig na sagot na hindi naman yun sa kanyang paningin. So by and large, intact naman yung kanyang testimony. And you know, that's a basic rule. When the witness is telling the truth and the witness is competent, no amount of cross-examination will completely demolish yung kanyang mga testimony.
And kahit paulit-ulit na yung tanong, yun pa rin ang sagot niya. Kahit balik-baliktarin mo, yun pa rin.
Yes, as a matter of fact, yung knowing the COA procedures, medyo restrained pa nga ang kanyang pagsagot eh. Linilimit lang niya dun sa kanyang personal knowledge, dun sa mga dokumento, when in fact, he could have said a lot more as an auditor. Kasi hindi lang naman yung circular ang basehan nito. More importantly is the constitutional mandate. That's the fundamental law. And it says that they should prevent irregular, unnecessary, excessive, extravagant, or unconscionable expenses. Irregular lang, that's all-encompassing. But she was just limiting herself to the COA audit circular.
I'd like to ask you, Attorney Cayosa, when the defense showed part of the justification for the spending, many of those were related to events, public events of the VP, like prior to, and I think Attorney Kapunan pointed this out, prior to attending an event, ika-case yung lugar, etc. Covered ba yun ng confidential funds? Parang it's a redundant job by her security personnel.
Well, I don't think it should be covered because the PSG guarding and taking care of the security of the president has its own fund, has its own
Right.
intelligence fund. So kung dodoblahin pa yan, talaga nga, waste of funds yan. Plus, ang kulang dito yung mga accomplishment reports and yung mga necessary supporting documents. At yung nasa-sidetrack kasi tayo dun sa mga aliases o yung
Yes.
katuwang mga pangalan, pero the joke is on us, pera natin yan eh. Pero malinaw naman na naipakita nila na hindi lang ho ito yung, actually, it doesn't matter kung anong pangalan eh. Ang mas importante, over a long period of time, the Vice President was not able to comply with the requirements of documentation, and there were expenses that were incurred outside of the relevant periods. Yung reimbursement, na bawal yan sa COA circular, pati yung mga expenditures that are not allowed as intelligence or confidential fund expenditures. So doon pa lang, hindi sila nakakaalis doon eh. Kahit nasabihin natin may tao behind these aliases and nakakatawang pangalan, they cannot explain everything away. Well, of course, we'll have to wait kung ano yung creative way by which the defense will try to explain that when their time comes to present evidence. But ang problema ng defense dito says, meron na silang sinabmit ng mga dokumento at mga arguments in the motion for reconsideration, in the appeal, and they cannot totally veer away from that.
Now, this tension-filled day got the attention of the public. So, kumbaga, balik na naman ulit, parang nagka-interest na naman ulit ang publiko sa nangyayari sa trial.
Well, you're correct. And that may be a blessing in disguise. Kasi diba, na may konting drama, para sa ganun, parang telenovela. We cannot blame the public. They'll be bored with all of the figures that they could only digest and cling onto sound bites. Yun ang importante. And that's why very crucial din that these things are discussed, especially the principles of law behind these things. Kasi kung hindi, magpapaniwala ang taong bayan dun sa mga troll farms o kaya sa vloggers na wala na sa linya, wala na sa batas, wala na sa katotohanan.
So, Attorney kayo, sa ano ang pinakamahalagang napakita ng dalawang COA auditors so far on the alleged misuse of the confidential funds of the Office of the Vice President and of the DepEd?
Well, ang mahalaga dito ay naipag-connect nila yung pag-withdraw sa yung paggamit ng hindi ito small time na paggamit. Tens and hundreds of millions ang nagamit. Naipakita nila kung bakit na disallow ng COA. Because we have to understand, in the order of things, it is COA that has the final say on whether or not things are disallowed, because that's the independent constitutional body.
Okay.
But it's not enough. Sabi, disallow ng COA yan, therefore okay na, pwede nang gamitin. Na-explain nila yung process eh. So I think that's very important para maintindihan ng taong bayan. Pangalawa, the laws and the rules involved, para hindi na naman na masabi na baka nagsisinungaling mga ito, nag-exaggerate, o kaya politically motivated. You cannot claim those things with respect to COA because the testimonies of the two witnesses from COA is not about their personal findings. Yung report na yan, that's a report of the agency that has been approved by the Commission and Bank. Na ito, na-deny, motion for reconsideration na lang ito eh. So, the chances na i-reverse nila ang sarili nila, very slim. Okay. Pangalawa, kahit tatakbo sa Supreme Court, hindi rin niya, very slim din yan because certiorari yan. Meron namang pinagdaan ng proseso at merong sufficient batas. Right. Ayan.
But there was one question from the presiding officer that was telling as to whether, because yung disallowance ay dahil sa testimony doon sa Kongreso, di ba sir, na sinabi that the special disbursing officer gave it to the security office, gave the funds to the security office of La Chica and another colonel for disbursement. That's not allowed. And the presiding officer said he wasn't sure if it was a blanket disburse or turnover of the funds.
Yeah, he made a good point, no? Ang sinabi niya, hindi doon sa isa malinaw na sinabi niya, lahat yan, instruction, ibigay ko sa security officer. Bawal yun. Pero doon sa pangalawa, sabi niya, mukhang hindi malinaw na lahat. But you know, that begs the question, says na sabihin na natin, kalahati lang ang may instruction ibigay. Paano yung disallowed? Marami, pera pa rin yan ng gobyerno. You know, it's still a blatant violation of the rules.
But also,
Doesn't really matter.
Attorney Cayosa, the decision to disallow was a result of that hearing. Is that weak? Is that a flaw? Kasi sinasabi ng defense, they were saying there's a process and parang hindi kasali ito. Base lang yun sa pagrinig niya dun sa hearing.
Well, alam mo yung narrative na yan na kung wala dun sa COA Circular 2015-01, hindi pwede. Mali yun, says
Mali
Because,
ba yun?
of course, you know,
Parang if you're
COA
you're confining yourself only to those to the guidelines in the joint circular, parang masyado namang confining.
Yes, parang may blinders ang COA and that's not the intention. Ang
Narinig
basic
mo na nga no pinagbawal, di ba? Sa bagay.
Yeah, as a responsible COA auditor or
right.
COA official,
Okay.
any information, reliable information, ito kasi under oath, sinabi mismo ng mga special disbursing officers. So, you know, you can believe that because
Alright.
this is not chismis. It's in a formal hearing.
Right.
It's under oath.
That's
So
true.
it's well within their right and responsibility to also include that in their evaluation.
Okay. Now, I'd like to ask you, obviously, this joint circular has to be strengthened. This was brought up by Senator Ping Lacson, I think, and several other senators that saw flaws. I think Raffy Tulfo, Senator Raffy Tulfo also, parang kulang ang safeguards sa pera ng bayan. Di ba? Don't you think?
Well, that's the usual reaction of legislators, says. Kung may problema, let's amend the law, kulang ang law. But sa tingin ko, that was already a measure, a remedial measure, because nga, ang background niyan, naglipa na yung pag-aabuso sa confidential fund. Kaya nga, in-strengthen yan. So even this narrative na merong 1992, dapat relevant pa rin, hindi na Kasi nga, precisely in-strengthen nila. Now, sa tingin ko, basta manindigan lang ang COA dito sa circular na ito at ipatubad sa lahat, sa tingin ko sapat na Ang problema kasi, kung minsan, napupuli sila ng mga disbursing agencies. Kung powerful sila, natatahimik sila. Tingnan mo itong nangyari dito, di ba? Nakakwento nila inadvertently. Imbes na mag-explain yung ino-audit, silang pinapatawag. Mga ganun ba? And that should not happen, di ba? Yung kung naninindigan talaga ang COA. Plus, ito, medyo matagal na ito So, the same po na natin sa ating judicial branch, itong mga guardians of our public funds should also move faster. They should also explain, ba't ang
Right.
tagal ng desisyonan ito?
There's so much leeway. Paano na po yan? Parang hindi naman balon ng pera ang gobyerno na you can just keep getting and getting. Kung ang daming mga hindi funds na unliquidated, di ba? That's considering that our government is hard put for money and funds and has led to borrowing, kailangan judicious talaga po ang paggastos.
Tama. At saka it's not a defect in the rules or in the law. It's how rigorous COA is in implementing it. The truth really is nako-co-op din at nape-pressure yung COA unfortunately.
And finally, going back to the anticipated ruling of the presiding officer on Monday, will he, as you said, he has to tighten control, but will he have, do you think he should cite some individuals, because he long ago had asked for them to consider, both panels to consider having spokespersons outside those who are actually prosecuting the case, prosecuting and defending the case.
Yeah, that's a helpful suggestion, but unfortunately, both parties they're not accepting it or not welcoming it, and there's nothing that the presiding officer or the Senate can do about that. That's a choice and decision of the parties. But what he can do, malamang he's a politician, it's a collegiate body, malamang he will not name names. Kasi wala din namang practical effect kung mag-name siya. It will just spawn a lot of arguments na sa sidetrack na naman yung mga main issues tungkol dito sa kaso na ito.
But in fairness, attorney, to Michael Poa, I've seen some of his press conferences. He really is very careful and does not want to comment if he thinks that his response will be sub judice or go into the merits of the case.
I can agree with that, Tess. And, commendable yung kanyang restraint, no? Even the way he behaves in court, di ba? Yung
Right.
hindi masyadong mapilit. So, maginoo nga siya, di ba? Yung makita naman natin sa kanya. And that has to be appreciated also. But how we wish and we hope that all the other parties, including his client, would adopt the same attitude, di ba?
As always, we appreciate your insights, former IBP President Attorney Egon Cayosa. In other news, former Congressman Zaldico is now being linked to the alleged character assassination plot against Executive Secretary Ralph Recto. A CCTV footage circulated on social media showing Congressman Jing Paras and talent manager Elias Ken together with Attorney Rui Rondain. Rondain is Zaldico's lawyer. The footage was allegedly taken July 26 at a restaurant in Project 4, Quezon City. Speculation soon emerged that COA may possibly be involved in the planned money trap plot against Recto, or honey trap, not money trap. Paras was tagged by the NBI as the alleged mastermind of the plan. His lawyer, however, had this to say about COA's involvement.
Yung logic na pag ang abogado ni Zaldico, ibig sabihin connected si Zaldico, abogado ni Libiste, connected si Libiste. So ibig sabihin involved sa ganitong kaso. So that's our logic.
Paras's lawyer did confirm the authenticity of the released CCTV footage but did not provide further details. The former congressman's counsel said the bigger issue was the CCTV and screenshot being released to the media first. For his part, NBI Director Melvin Matibag denied the video came from them.
Yung nangyari ngayon is trial by publicity. Yung investigation, hindi based on evidence, but based on speculation, based on chismis, based on marites.
First of all, categorically, I will say we did not release any video. Hindi sa amin yun. So actually, right now, we will ask coordination with the person na nakapag-release niyan. Baka probably they can provide us the copy so we can compare it with the CCTV na meron kami.
You are watching The Big Story on One News. When we return, we give you the rest of this exchange just in case you missed it.
Senator Tulfo, madali niyo naman akong tanungin. Huwag naman kayo magdrama ng mapa-hostage.
Sino ang nagdadrama? Tumingin muna kayo sa salamin bago kayo magsalita. Pabalik-balik na po yung staff ko sa office ni Senator Peter Alan Cayetano para kumuha raw ng go signal nang sa gayon yung kanyang mga members ay ma-elect na sa committee ko. And all of them were saying we're more than happy and willing to sign, pero ayaw ni Senator Cayetano, Alan Cayetano. Hino-hostage niya po yung mga LEDAC bills sa kanyang pagtanggi na bigyan ng go signal ang kanyang mga kasamahan sa minority para pumirma.
Senator Tulfo, madali niyo naman akong tanungin, alam niyo naman kapatid ko si Alan, kung gusto niyo may iparating. Huwag na kayo magdrama ng mga pa-hostage. Hindi tayo ganito dito. And I certainly hope, that you don't set a precedent kasi I don't know the Senate President to be that way. I don't know the Majority Floor Leader to be that way.
Ubusin ko muna yung tawa ko. Never po ako nagdrama dito. Simula nung ako'y maging senador, never ever po ako nagsinungaling nagdrama rito. Alam na lahat ng tao rito. Sino ang nagdadrama? Tumingin muna kayo sa salamin bago kayo magsalita.
Senators Pia Cayetano and Raffy Tulfo there clashing at Tuesday's plenary session in case you missed it. Tulfo complained over Senator Alan Peter Cayetano's inaction over the minority bloc's participation in his committee, Public Services. Alan Peter has been absent from the impeachment trial and plenary for 2 days. And you're still watching the big story here on One News. Former Public Works Secretary Manuel Bonoan testified for the first time before the Sandigan Bayan in the malversation case against former Senator Bong Revilla and his co-accused. The case involves an alleged 92.8 million peso ghost flood control project in Pandi, Bulacan. During cross-examination, Bonoan said Revilla submitted a list of priority infrastructure projects through then DPWH Undersecretary Roberto Bernardo. He said the list was for verification and possible funding under the agency's leadership funds. Bonoan also testified that other senators, including Jinggoy Estrada, Bongo, and Robin Padilla, had submitted project lists through Bernardo, and that he discussed parameters of said leadership funds with former Senate President Mig Zubiri in 2024. The SP, according to Bonoan, decided how much funds are allotted per senator. But Zubiri vehemently denied ever handling lists of projects of his fellow lawmakers.
For the record, I never handled project lists. As Senate President, I never requested, held, or handled any list of project requests from senators. Wala po dumaan na proposed budget amendments sa ating tanggapan.
Time may be running out for the Philippines to seal the Pax Silica deal. That's the warning from Philippine Ambassador to the United States, Jose Manuel Babe Romualdez, who says continued hesitation could cost the country this multi-billion-dollar US-backed investment. In a sit-down interview with One News anchor Regina Lay, Romualdez also addressed concerns over diplomatic immunity, deepening defense ties with Washington, and even questions about his cousin, the former speaker. Here's a preview.
The clock is ticking for the Philippines on Pax Silica, the multi-billion-dollar U.S.-led coalition that's planning a 1,620-hectare AI and tech manufacturing hub in New Clark City, Tarlac. The Philippines became the 13th country to join the coalition. In fact, it was one of the first countries to be invited, according to Philippine Ambassador to the United States, Jose Manuel Babes Romualdez. But now Romualdez says some 40 other countries would like to sign up, and his worry is that the Philippines may lose out to them.
This thing has a timeline. I mean, if we dilly-dally or just keep arguing among ourselves, always looking at what is not good and what are the, instead of looking at the advantages, it's only natural that they'll look for somewhere else where it could be. And there are other ASEAN countries that are considered to be perhaps a second choice to the Philippines. But if we decide that that the timeline has lapsed, we definitely will lose out on this one.
One flashpoint that has already come up. fears that the deal could compromise Philippine sovereignty after reports Washington was seeking diplomatic immunity for its personnel. Romualdez insists that was never a formal demand. So the idea of diplomatic immunity was just an idea thrown in.
It is an idea.
Wasn't an ask.
This is nothing new because there are other countries that have already been able to do something similar. Of course, not quite the same as Pax Silica, but like Dubai, for instance, has an economic zone that is totally independent from the governing aspect of the
government,
country, of the government.
Despite the controversy, he says investors aren't waiting on the sidelines.
And believe me, just the mere fact that we announced that we're interested to join Pax Silica, we have companies coming to our office in Washington, the Philippine Embassy, inquiring on how they can not necessarily be part of Pax Silica, but they're interested in investing into the Philippines because it's like there's a bandwagon effect to it.
This economic push is unfolding alongside a deepening defense partnership, with Washington moving to build up the Philippines' own defense industry. Part of the plan is a controversial ammunition hub in Subic, Zambales, which will manufacture and store munitions for joint use by Filipino and American forces.
They are helping us in many ways, and there's going to be a lot on the defense industrial base that they're going to set up here. In other words, we're going to be manufacturing quite a number of the things that we will need for any potential conflict, which is a great thing. They're going to help us. They're going to give us technology transfers, again, because of a trusted ally, that we will be able to manufacture some of these things that we need here in the Philippines.
Romualdez refused to give a timeline on this, but said things were moving quickly. Asked about the criticism that munitions hub might make Manila a staging ground for war between the U.S. and China, the ambassador insists this doesn't expose us any more to the superpower rivalry and that it will ultimately benefit the Philippines.
If we did not have a problem in the West Philippine Sea or the territorial claims, then perhaps it would be a different story altogether. But the fact of the matter is, this is where we are. It is what it is, as the saying goes. And so, whether we like it or not, we're in a situation where we have to find a way to defend ourselves. And we work closely with allies and friends. Well, an ammunition hub that will be good for us too. Again, whenever we make a deal, don't make no mistake. Secretary Teodoro, Secretary Roque of the DTI, and generally the entire government will always look at the advantages that it will have. If it's a one-sided thing, no matter how much closeness we have, we won't agree to it.
Even as the investors come knocking, Romualdez admits he often has to field questions about corruption and domestic issues. His cousin, former House Speaker Martin Romualdez, is embroiled in the country's massive flood control scandal and recently had his U.S. visas, both tourist and diplomatic, revoked.
He and I have spoken many times in the past. As an older cousin, you try to advise a person on some of the things that I feel, but all that is water under the bridge.
Were you surprised by his visa cancellation? His visas were canceled by the U.S.
The visa cancellation, I was surprised. I thought it would be coming because of the cases that could be filed against it, but I didn't expect it to happen that quickly, to be honest about it.
From the high-stakes Pax Silica to an expanding defense alliance to a family controversy that won't go away, Ambassador Romualdez says the Philippines' relationship with Washington has never been more consequential.
The full interview airs on The Long Take Saturday, August 15 at 5:30 p.m. Ambassador Babe Romualdez also talked about the tariff negotiations and how he convinced President Donald Trump to lower the reciprocal tariffs for the Philippines. Catch the conversation only here on One News. This is a big story on One News, and coming up is President Marcos seeing for himself how trash piles up after bad weather. He now calls Metro Manila's garbage problem, quote, critical.
Yeah, it certainly is. Well, just look at it. Does that look critical to you? It does to me. So yes, I wouldn't call it a garbage crisis, but that is the problem that we are facing.
Not all questions can be answered by yes
I am
or
on
no.
cross, Your Honor, please.
Counsels.
Never mind if you're on cross. There are limits to cross-examination.
Counsels.
Misleading questions are not allowed.
They
on
are
cross.
allowed.
Counsels,
I don't think I need to lecture you
please,
that.
counsels, let's not allow the generational or seeming generational divide increase the tension in the courtroom. Let's keep it a notch lower.
I am preventing myself from giving her a spanking, Your Honor. That is what I would
Your
have
Honor,
done
please.
Again,
in
again,
the
counsels.
generational divide, Your Honor.
Again,
Your Honor,
counsels, you are all members of the bar and
Yes,
you're
Your Honor.
all counsels
I submit,
for the parties.
submit.
And we will be treating and looking at each one equally. At Miss
I will-
Eileen.
Yes, Your Honor.
it's also-
I promise to henceforth behave.
Your
Thank
Honor,
you.
can I please respond quickly lang, no? I have high respect for Attorney Kapunan. In fact, she's one of
You
my
can end there,
idols.
counsel.
Let's end here. Let's end here.
You can end there.
This
with
might
the
sound like
respect.
it might sound like a eulogy, Your Honor. I'm still very much alive.
We have more headlines for you here on The Big Story. President Bongbong Marcos has described the country's garbage problem as critical. That's after tons of trash floated into parts of Manila Bay and its tributaries following intense habagat rains. Marcos inspected the Jokno pumping station in Pasay and the Redemptorist water channel in Parañaque earlier in the day. Their crews were hauling tons of garbage as part of ongoing clearing and waste collection operations. Asked about the situation, this was the president's assessment of the garbage problem.
Yeah, it certainly is. Well, just look at it. Does that look critical to you? It does to me. So yes, I wouldn't call it a garbage crisis, but that is the problem that we are facing.
On proposals for stiffer penalties against improper waste disposal, President Marcos appeared not keen on the idea. Instead, he said the government first needs a proper waste management system, including adequate garbage bins. The president also pointed to Japan as an example of proper waste management.
A country like Japan, they just don't throw their basura anywhere. They keep it in their pockets and throw it at home, because there's a very good system for bringing the garbage out. That is the first problem. So it's not useful to fine people for not throwing their garbage if there is no place to put their garbage.
The chief executive also said the government is looking to establish waste-to-energy plants as part of the solution. He said the technical work has been completed, with the Department of Energy expected to hold an auction in a couple of months. For her part, Energy Secretary Sharon Garin said private firms would shoulder the cost of building the facilities, while the government would pay for the electricity generated.
Pero mangyayari, the same pa rin yung pag-harvest or pagtipon ng basura, imbis na itapon lang doon sa landfill, pa-process siya to energy by using our facilities for waste to energy.
Meanwhile, Parañaque City Mayor Edwin Olivares has addressed concerns over the city's long-standing flooding problem.
Bago po mawala ang tubig sa sukatan, it takes days. Ngayon po, in 2 to 3 hours, wala na po siya. Ang bilis po umupa. Ang bilis po tumakbo ng drainage po natin. Nakita po niyo, ang laki na po ng improvement. Pero kailangan meron pa hong gawin para finally magkaroon po talaga ng ultimatum matapos po yung ating flood problem po dyan.
Now on to the weather. Expect rains to continue over Luzon until tomorrow. That's still because of the southwest monsoon or habagat. Pag-asa predicts it will be especially wet for Metro Manila, the Ilocos region, Benguet, Abra, Calabarzon, Zambales, and Bataan. The same weather conditions are possible for Tarlac, Pampanga, Nueva Ecija, Bulacan, Marinduque, and the Mindoro provinces. Expect moderate to at times heavy rainfall that could potentially cause flash floods or landslides. Meanwhile, the State Weather Bureau is also monitoring Tropical Storm Nangka, which formed from a low-pressure area. The disturbance is just along the edge of the Philippine area of responsibility. While it's not seen to affect the country, the cloud clusters following Nangka, which are inside PAR, could form into a low-pressure area in the next several hours. Meantime, here are the areas that declared suspensions for tomorrow or class suspensions for tomorrow, Thursday, August 13th. Take a look at your screens. Now here also are the other stories making headlines this Wednesday from mobile journalist Daniel Dayal.
The Department of National Defense welcomes the upper chamber's concurrence on visiting forces agreements with Canada and New Zealand. The Senate voted unanimously in favor of resolutions number 548 and 549, which aims to establish clear legal frameworks for joint military exercises, training operations, and humanitarian disaster response between the armed forces of the Philippines and their foreign counterparts. The DND believes this should bolster a credible defense posture and protect maritime entitlements in the region. Outgoing ambassador of France to the Philippines and Micronesia, Marie Fontanelle, is hopeful the French government will sign the status of visiting forces agreement or SOFBA with Manila soon. For now, she believes defense cooperation will continue between two countries.
We are working on it already, of course. Just after the signature, we started the discussions for the ratification. I'm just concerned by our election time next year. I hope it will not jeopardize the schedule to ratify before the election.
Ambassador Fontanelle, however, declined to talk about former Congressman Zaldico's supposed application for political asylum in France. Co is allegedly a central figure in multi-billion peso flood control scandal here.
These kind of situations, they come under international law. An asylum request, for example, there is a strict international law framework, and this is an independent judicial procedure. Governments are not involved and should really refrain from taking any active part in it.
The three branches of the Lopez family majority, namely Cream Invest Corporation, Montes Corporation, and Presta Holdings Company Incorporated, said they will invest 2.2 billion pesos in ABS-CBN Corporation. Speaking on his family's behalf, Eugenio Gabi Lopez III said the funds would come from personal resources. The funds are meant to address obligations due long-serving employees and to support ABS-CBN's recovery plans. Details surrounding the investment are yet to be finalized. The social weather station said the Marcos administration recovered 14 points in net satisfaction, rising from -13 in March to +1 in June 2026. The recent rating was classified as neutral, with 42% of adult Filipinos satisfied, 40% dissatisfied, and 17% neither satisfied nor dissatisfied with the administration's general performance. The Marcos government received very good ratings for providing basic education, improving children's education, helping the poor, and creating job opportunities. However, it received poor ratings for fighting inflation at -12 and eradicating graft and corruption at -14. The survey was conducted from June 20 to 29 among 1,200 adult Filipinos, with a ±3 percentage point margin of error. In another survey, a hypothetical tandem of Naga City Mayor Leni Robredo and Senator Raffy Tulfo is in a statistical dead heat with a pair of Vice President Sara Duterte and Senator Amy Marcos, according to the latest poll of Octa Research. Robredo Tulfo registered 45%, just 3 points ahead of Duterte Marcos at 42%. The non-commissioned survey was conducted among 1,200 adult respondents between July 4 and 11. The poll's margin of error was at plus or minus 3 percentage points at a 95% confidence level. Both Robredo and Tulfo have earlier said they are not running for the higher office in 2028. Meanwhile, Duterte has confirmed her presidential bid in the next election, while Marcos has not announced her plans. Kapatid Mobile journalist Daniel Dayaw, we are One News.
Our big picture tonight is in sports. Filipina tennis star Alex Ayala with a tough Cincinnati draw ahead. Ayala, the number 17 seed, has a first-round bye and will face either Romania's Elena Gabriela Rus or Poland's Magna Linette in round 2. She has never beaten Rus, while she holds a 2-2 record against Linette. The 21-year-old Filipina enters Cincinnati as a world number 20 after winning her first WTA Tour title in Washington. She also has a week to recover from a minor ankle injury after a round of 16 finish in Toronto. And if Ayala advances, the road only gets tougher with Amanda Anisimova, Linda Noskova, Jessica Pegula, Iga Swiatek, and Ariana Sabalenka potentially standing in her way. And before we go, Asia's unkabogable, phenomenal superstar Vice Ganda has entered into a creative partnership with MediaQuest Holdings Incorporated. Under the partnership, MediaQuest and the comedian host will work on entertainment projects designed to offer bigger and more meaningful experiences for Filipino audiences. This also marks a new chapter in Vice Ganda's career as a, quote, queen of all networks. MediaQuest Holdings Chairman Manny V. Pangilinan and President and CEO Ricky Vargas were present in the signing ceremony. And those are the big stories this midweek. I'm Ces Oreña-Drilon. Kapatid, we are One News, your side all the time. Good night.